Ethan Cole had learned long ago that life rarely turned out the way you planned. A decade earlier, he'd imagined a small house, 2 kids, a quiet life with his wife, and maybe a fishing boat someday. Instead, he found himself at 41, standing in a grocery store with his 9-year-old son Liam, comparing prices on bread and counting coins in his pocket. Since his wife's passing, every day had been a mix of exhaustion and quiet determination. It was a cold Saturday afternoon when everything changed. At the other end of the store, a man's angry voice cut through the low hum of shopping carts. "I saw you slip that box into your bag," the store manager barked. "Don't play innocent with me." Ethan turned to see who he was shouting at. A woman in a wheelchair, maybe mid-30s, dressed neatly but simply. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her bag. "Sir," she said calmly. "I didn't take anything." "You're welcome to check," but the manager was already rummaging through her belongings, scattering tissues, a phone, a folded scarf, and a glucose monitor across the counter. No stolen item. Nothing suspicious. Still, his face burned red with anger, or perhaps embarrassment. "People like you think sympathy is a free pass," he muttered. Ethan's jaw tightened. His son's small hand slipped into his. "Dad," Liam whispered. "Why's he yelling at her?" Before Ethan could answer, the manager reached toward the side pocket of her wheelchair. That was enough. "Hey," Ethan said, stepping forward. "She told you to check her bag." "You did. There's nothing there. You need to stop." The manager glared. "This isn't your business." "It is now," Ethan replied evenly. "You're harassing her without proof? That's everyone's business." The woman looked up at him then, her eyes clear and steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Thank you," she said softly. "Let's get you out of here," Ethan offered. They left together, the November wind biting at their faces. Outside, she paused beside a small car modified with hand controls. "You didn't have to get involved," she said. "Maybe not," Ethan said. "But I'd hope someone would do the same for my son if we were in your place." She smiled, a little tired but genuine. "I'm Clara," she said. "Ethan," he replied. "And this is Liam." Over the next few weeks, they saw each other again by chance. Once at the park, once at the library. Each time the conversations lasted a little longer. She told him she used to teach math at a middle school but had to leave after her accident 2 years earlier. "A car crash," she said quietly, one she'd barely survived. The paralysis had been permanent, or so the doctors thought. One afternoon, when Ethan mentioned Liam was struggling in school, Clara offered to help. "If you don't mind me coming by," she added quickly. "I miss teaching." That's how Tuesday evenings became tutoring nights. Liam adored her. She made math sound like an adventure, full of puzzles instead of problems. And for Ethan, those evenings were a quiet relief, an hour when his son was learning and laughing again. But then, without warning, Clara disappeared. No calls, no messages.
It's just been
A
so
week
hard
passed,
lately.
then 2. Ethan worried,
I didn't
though
know
he told
who
himself
else
it
to
wasn't
talk
his
to
place.
about this.
Still, Liam asked every day, "When's Miss Clara coming back?" 10 days later, she returned. Her face was pale, her eyes tired. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as Ethan opened the door. "I had to deal with something I've been running from." He let her in. "You don't owe me an explanation." "Yes, I do," she said. "You and Liam have been the only real friends I've had in a long time." She took a breath. "My name isn't Clara James. It's Clara Whitmore. My father is Charles Whitmore." Ethan frowned. "The businessman? The one who owns Whitmore Medical?" "Yes," she smiled bitterly. "The irony isn't lost on me. My father builds equipment for people with disabilities. His own daughter became one, and he couldn't handle it. He meant well, but he started making every decision for me. Hired people to assist me, told me where to live, what to do. I couldn't breathe, Ethan. So I left Ethan, sat down beside her. And now he's found you. She nodded. He sent people after me for months. They finally did. What does he want? To bring me home. He says I've proved my point and can stop pretending to be independent. Her voice cracked. But this isn't pretending. This is my life. Ethan hesitated, then asked quietly, "What do you want?" She looked surprised, as if no one had ever asked. "I want to keep teaching Liam. I want to live on my own terms. And maybe I want to stop running." "Then you should," Ethan said simply. A few days later, there was a knock on the door. When Ethan opened it, a tall man in an expensive coat stood there, his silver hair slicked back, his eyes the same shade of gray-blue as Clara's. "Mr. Cole," he said, "I'm Charles Whitmore. I believe my daughter is here." Clara's wheelchair appeared behind Ethan. Her voice was firm. "Dad, you shouldn't have come." "I had to," he said. "I owe you an apology." Ethan stepped aside. The tension in the room was thick, but Charles wasn't the villain Ethan had expected.
Will you marry me?
He looked like a man carrying 5 years of guilt.
Oh, yes,
"I thought protecting you meant controlling you," Charles said quietly. "I couldn't face that you didn't need saving. I've watched the life you've built. It's real. It's yours. And I'm proud of you." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I just needed you to see me, Dad." "Not the chair, I see you now," he said. It wasn't an instant reconciliation, but it was a start. Months passed, and the distance between Ethan and Clara closed naturally. Love, when it came, was quiet and steady. One evening, under the soft lights of the community center Charles had secretly funded, the same building that once housed the grocery store where it all began, Ethan knelt beside her chair and said, "You taught me that standing up for someone doesn't mean saving them. It means seeing them. Will you let me keep seeing you for the rest of my life?" Clara's laughter was soft and full of disbelief. "Yes," she said. 1,000 times yes. They married in spring, surrounded by family, friends, and the children from the center's new tutoring program. Clara wore a gown that flowed beautifully around her wheels, and halfway down the aisle, she surprised everyone, standing slowly, shakily, thanks to a new neural implant developed by her father's company. She took a few steps, smiling through tears, then sat again. "I didn't walk to prove I could," she said later. "I walked to prove I didn't have to." Their life afterward wasn't perfect. Bills still piled up, long work days still came. But it was theirs. Clara continued teaching, Ethan expanded his small repair shop, and Liam grew into a kind young man who never forgot what it meant to stand up for someone. A year later, they welcomed twin girls, living proof that miracles sometimes arrive quietly without grand announcements. And whenever Ethan told the story of how they met, he'd end it the same way. Sometimes, life gives you one chance to stand up for a stranger. Do it. You never know. You might be standing up for your future.